Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live.
Sunny day. Right there,
What's up there, Chris? Lane Graves is in the house. Bob Donahue, what is going on, man? Jeremy, Nick, Beth, Warren Cottrell, Joseph Cascarino. How are you, buddy? Grimy Fishing's here.
Well, I know
what up, Ed? How are you doing? Conway. What is going on, Conway? Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, Mike Hayer's up. Johnny Kopp. Yo, Johnny, how are you? Where you been, man? Holy mackerel, I haven't seen you forever. Jeff Santangelo, how are you, buddy? Joshua Weinbrenner, how are you, Josh? Good to see you, pal. Jim Saban's here. Hey, 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 hey. Yeah. Galen Heathcote. Mike Barr, how are you, Mike? Gio, what is happening, Gio? Good to see you, buddy. Jim Orwig's here. Chuck Fish, Matthew Weimer, Doran. What's up, Doran? Man, oh man, oh man. We got a great show for you tonight. Lots been going on around here at the shop. Been going crazy, putting a new computer system in. So that's been big on the list here the last several weeks. So I haven't been out fishing too much, but, you know, how to take care of business first. So getting that all wrapped up here. So we'll be able to get back out at it for the greatest time of the year. Fall fishing is in full swing around here. So I'm excited to get out, get on him, catch him big. For all you guys who don't know, my name is Mike Acord. This is George Acord right here. And behind the camera is cameraman Nick. And we are Tackle Shop Live. And we come at you every Thursday night at 7 o'clock for great conversation on fishing products, on fishing techniques, on fishing tournaments, on fishing everything. And we love it all. We love tackle, of course. We love playing with tackle. We love talking tackle, and we love fishing tackle. So, good to see everybody stopping in. Appreciate you very much. Nick, did you see? Now, you know, we had Joe Raymond on a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that was huge. Yep.
And he caught that 7-1 smallmouth and told us all about it. For you guys who were on here, you heard that. It was a great show, Nick. Those guys are great.
Yeah.
Millsy and Joe, you know, those guys are just.
I'm still trying to get Mills to come, you know, clean up my boat for me.
I know,
you know what I mean?
He is so organized. But Joe, he guides here on the Susquehanna River, but then he goes back up to New York and he does a New York early winter thing up there. And he went up to get his self together up there, and he's fishing a couple days, and he caught this. I don't know if anybody's seen this thing, but
the big muskie.
Yeah,
thing was huge.
I mean, he caught this muskie that was completely. Let me see if I can pull it up here. You guys got to see this thing. George and Joe right here. This thing. I mean, Nick, you're gonna have to. Let me turn this way, I guess. Oh shoot, what do I do here? Right there, Nick. Now let's see if you can see that. This thing is absolutely ridiculous. This is a 55-inch, 27-inch girth, and it weighed 50 pounds. Yeah, that's what it did. I don't know if you can see that better. Terrible picture. Anyway, it's out there floating around on the internet. 50, what do you say it was? 50 pounds, 55-inch, 27-inch girth. Now, that's a once in a lifetime fish. I mean, you're not, you know, those fish are as hard to catch as a 7-pound, 1-ounce smallie out of the Susquehanna River. And he did it all within like 3 weeks. he's in some kind of realm right now.
Yeah, what's next?
I mean, he's in this realm of fishing that is incredible. We should grab him real quick and go fish a tournament somewhere because he's just in that mode right now. Man, that's unbelievable. So that's really cool to see that. What a fish for all you muskie heads out there. You know what a 55-inch fish means. That is something special. That's something, George.
Well, in the muskie world, very few have achieved that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know,
it's a lifetime fish.
I mean, the 60-inch mark is what everybody's trying to get, but
no, the 50-inch mark.
Yeah,
is what
50
everybody's
inch
trying to get.
Well, the guys up north are you know, the 60-inch club, but
well, there's like one 60-inch muskie ever caught in the history of like muskies.
Yeah, exactly.
This thing is a absolute.
It's a beast.
Life achievement award.
It is. It's unbelievable. So really cool to see that, man. And Joe, you're just off the charts, man. What a absolute.
Did he say what he caught it on?
No, I didn't get a chance to talk to him. He just sent that down.
Next thing we're gonna find out, he caught it on 4-pound test.
Yeah, so, right. Yep. So anyway, we got a great show for you tonight, and for all you guys that are new to us, we appreciate it. Why don't you sit down, take a load off, get a drink, take your phone, and tap the like buttons and share buttons, and share this to your friends, and comment wherever you can on there. That would help us out immensely, and help keep us going here at the shop and on the show. Yeah, good to see everybody. Greg Plank's here. Good to see you, Greggy. Jack Hinkle, how are you, Jack? Joey Warner, Hollywood, approved. Absolutely. Keith Carnes, how are you? Hope your trip was awesome up at Thousand Islands. Scott Van Leer, you got a big tournament coming up. Hope you got your package, buddy. All right, George, let's get this show on the road. And we like to call this section, our favorite section, is called Tackle Talk. Now, George, we love tackle.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And we love talking tackle.
We do.
So what are we going to bust into today, buddy?
Well, you know, it might be a little disappointing this week. I wasn't necessarily prepared for a tackle talk segment.
I told everybody that we've been killing ourselves on a new computer system.
But I was going to talk about some fall power fishing, some A-rig fishing, some spinnerbait fishing. I thought we might go over that.
Absolutely.
And along the way, we'll introduce ourselves to some products.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is we start out here talking about some A-rig fishing. What about you, Nick? You a big A-rig guy?
When it first came out, I was not. Okay, when it first came out, I was late to the party. I guess I was one of those guys that was, didn't want to do that with different hooks and all that. But when I started using it, it's got a lot of power.
Oh,
when it's on, it's lights out.
Yeah.
And really, the amount of times that you hook up with doubles and this and that, it's a fun way to catch them.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I mean, I think the thing with it is just the awesome drawing power that it has.
Absolutely.
It just fires fish up, and it it's expanded out to cover many other seasons of the year, time frames, but it really, really excels in the fall.
Let me ask you guys this, because we're talking tackle too, with it. When the Alabama rig first came out, what it looked like then compared to what some of them look like now, has much really changed, or is it pretty much the same?
Oh, the components have gotten better. There are differences in Alabama rigs. I mean, basically, the Alabama rig, to say that you're going to catch more fish on one versus the other, I mean, that's debatable. But, to take an Alabama rig and what separates like one from the other, like here at the shop, we sell an insane amount of Umbrella. I guess they're called the Umbrella Junior umbrella rig. I'm just like an insane amount of them. And the reason for that is they tend to break and bend up pretty easily. Not that that's a bad thing at their price point. But to say that this is my not just my personal favorite, but one that I challenge a lot of other umbrella manufacturers with for, innovation and quality. I'm a big Picasso guy. Picasso umbrella rig. I think here at the shop it's something that we talk about a lot because it's superior quality umbrella rig that unless you lose the damn thing, you're gonna fish it for year in and year out. Because the wires are very durable. It's made out of a brown wire. So when you're breaking down like the Picasso umbrella rig, you've got the brown wire, which it's got a snap back potential to it. So it comes out of the package, it's all bundled down like this with a rubber band around it, and you cut it out of the package and it just snaps into shape. Now you still have the ability to tweak it, and that's important. Because one of the aspects of, I think, the drawing power of the umbrella rig is how big of a spread you have. Do you have a big spread, like a full size? This would be the original full size schoolie rig bait ball. The ones they have blades on them are called bait balls. One thing Picasso will do is absolutely confuse you to death on models and parts and what you're trying to buy. I mean, they got the most confusing numbering system and naming system. Everything is a schoolie rig, but only bladed ones are bait balls. And then they have different sizes. So they have, the original, they have the junior, and they have the finesse. And then they have all of those with and without blades. And then they have all of the blades available in nickel, copper, and gold. So you can buy each size with blades in 3 different colors of blades. They have models that have blades with eyeballs on them. They have the BFL legal model, which is 2 hooks, 3 empty wires. It'll actually run through the water like that. Obviously, when you put your weight, no matter where you put your weight, that's the bottom, right? This has a swivel in the nose. The nose is molded around, the head's molded around that swivel. It's a 400-pound test swivel. It's never, ever going to break. Probably shouldn't say never, ever.
Yeah. I mean,
never, ever is a long time.
Yeah. You never know.
This
I could catch a 55-inch muskie on there, then he might break it.
That's what breaks, the swivels. You get snagged on the bottom. You start violently wrenching on it, and you bend a swivel. So the nice thing is you can take your pliers and you can take this collar right here. You can slide it up. That brown wire snaps open. You can take your wounded swivel off, put your new swivel on, and close it back up, which is easier said than done on camera. Close it back up, slide your collar back down, and voila. So that is the Picasso umbrella rig. Now, the big question is, A, to blade or not to blade?
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of guys get messed up with.
And I don't know that there's a correct formula for discovering that. I have a scientific method that I know Mike and I have polished up for the last decade or so, ever since Paul Elias
Yeah.
exposed us to the umbrella rig.
Yep.
Now, here's the technique. Pick one that has blades or pick one that doesn't have blades and throw it. And if you think you should be getting bit and you're not, switch to the other one.
It's pretty much a deal. Pretty much a deal. I think the biggest thing for me is the size, whether you you throw a big spread out bait ball or if you're throwing a real tight, small bait ball. I think that's something that has made a big impact on certain days, more so than
I couldn't agree more.
Than the blades.
So what we're talking about is, obviously with the full size, and it doesn't matter what brand you use. Okay, let's just talk about that for a second. They're all good. Whatever brand you're happy with. We're not talking Picasso versus Flash Mob versus, Flash Mob is Pradco. I can't think of the name. Yum Flash Mob. Whatever. If you like the Flash Mob, you like it. I love it. Picasso, my favorite.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. Mike's favorite. Not that it matters. Or another brand out there. There's plenty of great brands out there. That part there, we're not arguing that because that's not the critical part. The critical element is what you put on it. And I think Mike just led us onto it. I think getting that spread right. So I like to open these bad boys up and get them spread out. Get a bigger looking school of fish. Okay. And that's step one.
Mm-hmm.
And step two is I'm big on the target. So, for example, a 3.3 to a 3.8, right? Swim bait. Boot foot swim bait. We all know what these are. We've talked about them on this show for
a million times,
10 different techniques at least, because they're so critical to your bass fishing. You need to master the boot foot swim bait 5 different ways or more. And so what we're talking about is, and I really like these fatter bodied styles like this. This is the scented Pro Swimmer Sensation I think we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Really good stuff to put on your A-rig, okay? Durable, but yet has that good, it's not a stiff bait that doesn't swim well, but it's going to hold up well. Jig head wise, one thing you don't want to do is use too light of a hook. You got big heavy duty wire rig. You got 20-pound test line. You got a heavy to an extra heavy rod. You don't have a lot of give.
Right.
So one of the things that will give is your hook. It'll flex open. So you want to get a good hook, and you want to match the hook size to a couple of things. You want to match it to the size of the fish that you're around, and you want to match it to your bait. So here's a typical 3.8 setup. This is an excellent head for that. This is a Strike King Squadron head. Excellent quality hook. We use these things from the baby model that has the little hook to match the smaller bait. If we drop down to a little smaller swim bait, we're going to drop down to a smaller hook. Obviously, we don't want a ton of we don't want a ton of hook on a tiny bait. So here's the same. They're both 1/8 ounce. Hook size. Baby. Standard. Excellent keeper system. You get a lot of life out of your bait. Excellent hook for the swim bait, for swimming. A lot of this stuff is going to cross over. You know, you're going to swim your bait on it, Mike, by itself.
Yeah.
Amongst other things.
Yeah, that's swim bait heads you have in your boat, you know, that you use for a lot of different things.
Yeah, exactly. Little bit of a smaller bait. I'll tell you guys, I really like it when it gets cold. I really like downsizing to the swing impact.
That's my jam, Aaron, when it's cold water.
Really, really show you. Let me show you some size difference here. Really, really, really like when it's cold, you know, here in another month when that water's cold, you know, we're still catching giant fish on an A-rig, but they're a little more particular. The water's crystal clear. The water's much colder, and that diameter difference is huge. That diameter difference in those baits is huge. This is more finessey. And you know, it really can be the big deal. Now we're gonna change that jig head up, and we're gonna go to something, you know, a little more traditional ball head. I'll tell you, I like a shaky head with a barb and a collar. I fish a lot of the Strike King and a lot of the War Eagle shaky heads. They got a Gamakatsu hook, thin wire hook, but yet strong.
That's a ticket, is having that thin wire, but Gamakatsu strength, you know, that Gamakatsu hook that doesn't bend out. Don't have to worry about it. It's nice and sharp. Swing, you know, you can swing those fish in the boat with it, no problem. Holds up well.
Yeah, don't forget, you don't have a lot of give in this system, so
yep,
you can tear some stuff up. Now, the target idea is, for example, we'll do 4 of these. Boom, 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 right? And then we will do 1 white one in the middle. That's our target. Okay. Seems to be a deal. Seems to be a deal. It can be white or another light color, but it seems to be a deal. I've also experimented with like a chartreuse target on a really cloudy, overcast day, or particularly on smallmouth.
I think
A-rig and smallmouth, man.
Yeah, I think the target can be a lot of different things. It can be a subtle difference from, you know, maybe a regular black glitter to a shiny glitter, or, you know, like a Tennessee shad to a sexy shad in the middle. You know, it could be something simple like that, but I like a lot of alternatives.
You know, the sexy shad gives you a little bit of chartreuse. You want a contrast. The middle target bait needs to have a contrast.
Yeah. It's
either going to be white or it's going to be something like this. Don't give them too much credit. Don't give them too much credit. They're a predator with a brain the size of your fingernail that's attacking a school of bait fish.
Yeah.
Another thing I've done too, and again, you're going to do what you're confident in, and once you start catching fish, you're confident.
Yeah.
That chaser, I've also upped the size of that one already. You know, like I might have 3.8 inch on my 4, and I put the 4.3 on the back, or 4.8, you know, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. I've done that. I'll tell you another thing. I don't know if you guys have done this. I've put in bigger weights on the bottom of my A-rig and had lighter weights at the top, and it seemed to work sometimes. So I mean, I've tried all kinds of different things.
You just touched into something that's very important for A-rig fishing: the weight.
Yeah.
So let's just take a typical A-rig. For those of you who have not A-rigged, so your typical A-rig is going to be like we fish 5 heads. So it's going to be like 5 1/8-ounce heads. So what does that do for you? So 5 1/8-ounce heads and 5 swim baits in the sizes we just talked about. That combination of weight will allow you to fish from fairly shallow water, about as shallow as you're going to fish an A-rig, down to, 15 feet, no problem. So I really like what Nick said because it opened up a great asset, a great fact that we need to talk about. What if you're fishing fish that are deeper? What if it's, like we're in the true fall right now. We've had our cold front. We've had the big north wind. Last night it was 37 degrees where we live. Everybody in the region, I talked to people in 5 different states today. The farther south that you go, their definition of cold is different, but everybody's like, oh my God, it was so cold last night. The wind's been blowing. It's fall. Yes, we're in true fall. I like to call it true fall.
Yeah.
Some places when you start getting later in the true fall period and that water starts getting colder, those fish are going deeper because the bait went deeper and you need to get your A-rig deeper. So what happens if you need to get your A-rig? What happens if you need to fish from like 10 to 20 feet? Well, I got news for you. You're going to have to add more weight to get it down and keep it down. And what Nick said is he'll put like 2 heavier ones on. If you put 2 3/8-ounce heads on with those 3 1/8-ounce heads, mission accomplished. If you have to put any more weight on than that, change locations. You have gone to the wrong body of water and or you're fishing the wrong technique. May I suggest vertically jigging a spoon? Because once you go beyond that, the A-rig it's like throwing a grass rake in the water and reeling it back in. It's no fun. When you're in the realm that we're talking about and you have the right rod, the A-rig gets a bum rap because it's hard to throw. Well, it's hard to throw because the rod combo that you're using is wrong. You took a knife to a gunfight.
That's exactly right.
Right?
Yeah.
So Mike and I, we are flipping stick guys. We like to use heavy to extra heavy flipping sticks in the 7.6 to 7.11 range. And it's like if you had a stump in your front yard and you had to dig the stump out of your front yard and you had a 4-foot digging iron and you had an 8-foot digging iron, you're not going to use the 4-foot digging iron,
Well, George and I were out fishing this year one day, and I forget what was going on. If something was going on, and I was like, man, we got to throw an A-rig, and we didn't have any of our rods with us, so I put it on a 7.2 medium heavy, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I threw it like 3 times, and I had to stop throwing it. And that's why, because
put it down.
It wasn't even the right match, but I just had this wild hair, and this is what you get.
Like Doug says, trying to pound a screw in with the pliers.
That's right.
We have the right tool. So, here's a couple. I walked around the shop tonight after work preparing for the show, which is kind of fun to do, I'll tell you. It's kind of fun to walk around the shop and prepare for the show. It's kind of like I get to go shopping, but I'm not really going to buy anything. And I'm like, so what would I use or recommend, or what will we talk about? What could I talk about that would be great A-rig rods / multi-purpose rods and maintain a reasonable price point? Because, I can go right to the frickin' that side and just go crazy. But, we sell a lot of $500 and $600 and $700 rods in here, but we don't show them to anybody unless they ask. We go meat and potatoes. And, I also wanted to grab a St. Croix while I was at it. And I wanted to grab an I-rod while I was at it. But, I didn't want to stand up here and talk about 5 rods. So I grabbed the first 2 I came to that are dynamite multi-purpose rods. So first we're going to talk about Ish Monroe, 8-foot pitching and flipping rod. Okay. Perfect A-rig rod. Okay. You don't want a pull keel. Okay. Nick, grab that tip. I'm going to choke up on it a little bit. You want a little bit of that. Okay. You want a little bit of give on the end there. It's not light by any means. It's stout, but it's got some flex.
Well, it's rated for, I think, 2.5 ounces on that rod or something, isn't it?
That's a good question. So this rod's rated to 1.5 ounces.
1.5.
Yep. But it throws an A-rig like nobody's business. And then I picked out an X Pride, and I could have went a couple different ways here. I could have went
Zodius, you mean?
Zodius. I could have went 710, 711. I went 7.9 extra heavy. Why? Because of the versatility. I have even a little bit of a lighter tip. Grab a hold of that, Nick. Same fast taper. Okay, we want a little bit of a fast taper. But I have a lot of backbone. But I have a rod that I can do my A-rig with. Most of my swim baits. If you like to throw glide baits and bigger swim baits, this rod will handle the majority of what you're doing. And flipping. So that's the kind of rods we're looking for. 7.6 to 7.11, 7.6 to 8 foot. Something that's got a longer handle on it that you can leverage on the cast. You can put one hand back here. Use 2 hands when you cast.
Yeah.
We want a bigger spooled reel.
There was a question on here, George, about guy has a problem with casting them, and tangling up on the cast, tumbling of it.
Probably not throwing the right rod.
Well, that's some of it, for sure. But the other thing is, on the end of your cast, when you're bombing this thing out there, at the very end of your cast, just squeeze on your spool just a little bit, and it'll take that thing from being like this and hitting the water like upside down and backwards to like pull it out. Right at the end of your cast, you just kind of squeeze on there a little bit and pull it out like that, so it hits on the water, and you'll see that it won't tangle your lines up, and it'll kind of straighten everything out when it hits the water. And that can be done just on an easy cast, or right before it hits the water, just squeeze a little bit more on that to flip that bait right. You know what I'm saying, Nick?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah. I mean, I do that with a Carolina rig all the time. Throw a Carolina rig, and right at the end of the cast, just squeeze on the spool so it straightens the Carolina rig out, and you don't have all that balled up mess hitting the water.
Well, you got there's a lot of things going in different directions when you're casting these suckers.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And right at the end of the cast is when you can control it all. The rest of the cast, you really can't control it, but you're going to get your distance. You're not going to sacrifice your distance, maybe just a couple of feet, but you're really going to pinch that out nice and have it so it doesn't hang all up on you and tangle up. And as that's every cast counts.
You know what always cracked me up about the umbrella rig? It goes against everything we've ever thought about fishing.
I know.
The fish can see everything. They care.
Yeah.
And then you throw this big glob out there and they just attack it like it's nobody's business.
I know. That's the power of the A-rig. And I don't know how these guys figured it out, but for the bass market, but when they did and how it revolutionized it, so much so that it's been banned from a lot of tournaments.
It has.
And it has a lot to do with the regulations and stuff, but still they banned that sucker. They banned it.
Overreaction.
Yeah.
Overreaction.
Yeah.
Overreaction.
Somebody else
So,
asked
the deal with the casting also, when you're tumbling your A-rig through the air and it's tangling, to the gentleman that asked that question, let me tell you the analogy I can give you. Throwing a crankbait on a crankbait rod. The harder you throw, the shorter it will go. those rods are meant to load up and fire. You're still using the exact same motion, okay? The biggest problem I think people have with success issues with casting is they don't cast correctly. If you have a lot of problems casting, it's your mechanics. You know, your arm should stay in fairly close to your sides, and it should be, you know, this much movement. This arm is coming up a little, but it's all in the wrist. Well, when you're casting something big, like an A-rig, a glide bait, a Carolina rig, awkward, it's that same exact motion, but open the rod up a little bit. So, you know, instead of trying to go straight overhand, come out to like a 45, okay? Open the rod up, turn your hand over so your reel is not flat, it's this way. Would that be perpendicular?
I don't know.
That's important. We have an I don't know there, so I can't really answer that. But open your rod up, come around like this, use your wrist, and your A-rig tangling days are over. And your crankbait casting success will go up, and you'll be awesome with the A-rig. That's true. That's the mechanics of casting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let me tell you, reel-wise, okay? You got to get a bigger reel. You got to get a bigger reel. So you can just see it here on spool size. Whatever one you choose, Corrado 150, Corrado 200. Wider spool, bigger line capacity.
And why is that, George?
Well, first of all, you're throwing 20-pound fluorocarbon, which fills a reel up quickly. So we want a little more line on there. As you cast that out there, that reel empties quickly because the line is large in diameter. And you end up with a very low spool that has a completely different retrieve to it. Not to mention, when you're using this rod for other purposes where you may want a very long cast, it'll cost you casting distance. So get a bigger reel.
The 200 size. You said 150.
This is a 150.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
So compare the 150
okay.
to the 200.
Yeah.
And you'll see the spool size difference.
Yeah.
Now, if all you have is a 150, well, you know, casting a little bit's better than not casting at all. So start with that. If you're a Lew's fan, you know, they make all kinds of big spools. They make BB1Ns. They make Super Duties.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Daiwa fan, man, check out that new 150 Tatula.
Yep.
Perfect for that kind of a situation. And onward and onward. All manufacturers make those reels. You want to use this rod for something else like throwing glide baits and you want a bigger reel yet? Go to a 300 size. Go to a Tranks 300. I mean, it's a little more reel than you need, but if that's what you're comfortable with, it's not a problem.
Speaking of reels, guys,
yeah.
Is there a gear ratio that you're worried about, or not really?
Not too bogged down with it. I mean, you can do a 6 or a 7. It's not a huge deal between the two. You don't want an 8. Now, if all you have is an 8, then you know you're going to have to be cognizant of the fact that you need to slow down. These rigs are very well fished on a slower pace. It's kind of like throwing a glide bait or a big boot tail or a mag draft. A slower, steadier pace. Now, guys, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I have integrated technology into my A-rig fishing.
You have to.
I have. It's changed my life on the A-rig circuit. Forward-facing sonar. Now, if you can't see an A-rig on forward-facing sonar, sell that unit to your buddy because you done bought the wrong thing. But I in all seriousness, I am controlling my retrieve 100% on forward-facing sonar, and like reeling it towards a brush pile, a log, a rock pile, and then using my retrieve speed and the rod length to contour that cover. And let me tell you, it's so exciting when you see bass, multiples blasting up out of wherever they're at and attacking that thing. I actually a couple times found myself setting the hook before they hit it.
Hey, that's still fun though. Still fun watching.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, one of the things that you brought up there, George, about that forward facing with it though, you can actually really use that to your advantage when you're trying to get the right setup, because if you do have 20-pound test line and you're too light of a bait, you'll actually start reeling and you'll see it rising up too fast. That's telling you right there you need to either slow down your reeling,
put a bigger jig
or
head
you need
on.
to put a bigger jig heads on.
Yep.
Every
Or just
time.
one jig head, maybe.
Yep. I mean, that's your forward facing can be used for a lot of different things, and that's one of them.
So
Yeah, for
I know
sure.
Mike and I, fish together a lot. I've virtually taught him everything he knows. I mean, the time on the water adds up. But we do a ton of A-rig fishing from now until January. But we do a lot of it in fairly shallow water. Over the years, we have learned that a lot of bass stay a lot shallower than you would ever think in the colder months. And that A-rig can be a powerful tool. So, don't feel as though, 5 or 6 foot of water is too shallow, because it certainly is not. If you're in a 5, 6, 7 foot area, and you have a lot of bait present and you have uncooperative fish, fan cast that area with an A-rig, because what you're doing is you're preying upon that competitive nature. One of the key things of fall is catching a bass and having a whole bunch of his buddies trying to take the bait out of his mouth. That is a display of the competitive nature of fish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that A-rig is preying upon. And whoever discovered this thing back in the day, I'll guarantee you 100% he trolled in the ocean.
Yeah, I think that's what they said. That's where it came from.
He trolled in the ocean or in the bay, and he trolled parachute rigs. Not parachute rigs, but umbrella rigs. Umbrella rigs. He trolled 4-hook umbrella rigs for either stripers, or he was offshore trolling for a variety of species that they use these rigs for.
Yeah.
And he was a bass fisherman, I guarantee you. And he said, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This I need to make a castable version of this.
Yeah.
And when he cut it loose at an FLW tour event on a stingy reservoir, except for one guy. And that guy was Paul Elias, and he was catching so many fish. He had to kneel and reel because he couldn't, too tired to stand up anymore. And just crushing them.
One thing to go back to the retrieve, with the gear ratio, like George says, I don't think gear ratio is huge, because you can control the depth very easily with these baits. There's so much going on with them that you can control it. But one thing I do is I use my rod, from being perpendicular, right? We're going to use that. Yeah. Perpendicular.
No, that would be parallel.
Parallel. This is perpendicular.
Perpendicular is this way. Parallel is this way.
Parallel.
Perpendicular, parallel.
All right.
Could be parallel this way, though. Two things side by side are parallel.
Yeah.
So now we're going to need some help here. I mean, we got
where's our engineers?
Perpendicular.
Yeah. We're out of our league.
Parallel.
All right, we're going to hold a rod like this right here. We're going to hold it straight out when we're, or just off to the side a little bit, and we're going to be reeling and reeling and reeling. All of a sudden, we tick the bottom. instead of changing my speed, I'll just lift my rod up a little bit. Because the thing I think is that nice, steady, slow retrieve is what really gets them. I'll just change my rod angle a little bit, lift it up a little bit, and then I'll keep going and keep going. And if I hit the bottom again, then I know I have to reel a little bit
Pick up
faster.
a couple cranks.
Yeah, pick up a couple cranks, but you can really just, because it might be a little shallow spot that you just come over top of it. You don't feel the bottom anymore. You can come down, tick the bottom, and you can control that bottom tick by your rod going up and down like this. And is bottom tick important? It's not really that important all the time, but there's times where the fish are pressured, very pressured lakes, very pressured bodies of water. There's certain sections of the area on the river we fish are very pressured, that if you can get it down on the bottom and tick the bottom, you're going to catch more, more fish in those pressured situations. So, using that rod to control that bottom tick is going to be a very, very big thing for you. And I know for me, it's made a big difference in my umbrella rig fishing for sure.
Yeah.
But like George said, the other thing about Alabama rig is it has a tremendous drawing power. So a lot of times you don't have to if the fish are fired up, you don't have to have it close to the bottom. You just fire it out and start reeling it back. And that's the way we like to fish it. But if you're not getting the bites, there's fish around, you see them, you know there's bait there, and there's a lot of pressure, then just slow it down. Tick the bottom every now and again.
Well, you know what? It's like, and I'm probably going to give a tip away. It's going to upset somebody here, but if you're fishing a tournament from now till, I don't know, till they stop eating it, and you're in a buddy tournament and one of you two are not just chucking an umbrella rig, you're making a mistake. And I'll tell you why, because not only will it catch big fish, you can get right in a hurry.
Yeah.
You can catch multiples where it's legal. Let's emphasize where it's legal.
Yeah. Somebody did ask about Pennsylvania with 5 hooks, and yes, you can use 5 hooks in Pennsylvania.
But I mean, if you're not throwing it and other people are, you're making a mistake.
Yeah. In the fall for sure. So the hook thing is kind of important. You really should check your state regulations.
Yeah.
Some states are 2, Pennsylvania's 5, and you got everything in between. The BFL has, interestingly, they have, Picasso makes what they call a BFL Alabama rig, and it only has 2. It only has places to put 2 hooks on. It's 5 wires, but you can only put 2 hooks on because the BFL has ruled the Alabama rig legal. When you get to the tour level, it's not, but BFL Toyota Series it is. You can fish the Alabama rig, but you can only fish 2 hooks. So Picasso makes a BFL legal Alabama rig.
What do you guys think about that?
Well, on the other 3, there's just corkscrew springs.
Dummies.
Yeah, dummies where you
just still have 5 baits.
Yeah, you can just corkscrew them on for guys.
Would you guys take that chance with that?
Well, I mean, you're still getting the draw and the strike power of the Alabama rigs. You just might not hook them all.
Once you start throwing Nick, or well, you caught a lot of fish on, you'll see that they're caught on kind of the same hooks all the time.
I have taken notice that on the same days you can take notice they'll kind of favor a certain hook, and you're like,
Yeah.
You can kind of see some things.
Yeah, they hit, the center, or those bottom ones is where we catch most of ours, is on the bottom and the center, that more so than the top,
right?
Than the top, of course, because they're coming from the bottom and attacking up. So, 2 hooks, I'd have mine on the 2 bottom ones. That's my odds are better. And I'd throw that sucker in a tournament like that. Yeah.
I've already caught 3.
Oh yeah,
on one cast.
That's what's fun.
Keepers in a tournament.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep, 3 on one cast. Yeah, I mean, you can literally like feel the other one slam into it.
Yeah, you hook one and then you feel another. I felt them where you had them on. You had one on, you caught another one, then all of a sudden it got lighter again. You lost them.
And I got to ask you guys something. I know everybody listening, everybody watching has this, and you have an Alabama rig and there's hooks everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
You reach down in your rod locker and it's hooked on everything.
Oh,
What
Hold up.
What do you got for us, George?
The ultimate.
Yeah. Yeah. This was the greatest.
This is the greatest thing ever.
Greg DePalm is hanging out with us tonight. How you doing, Greg? And he's calling it the underwater teepee.
There you go.
Yeah. I call it the Susquehanna River grass rake.
He probably
There we
never
go.
he probably never fishes it because being an elite angler, they're not allowed to throw it, so he doesn't want to know how good they are.
I beg to differ.
He knows.
Let me tell you about a day when a guy on my boat was not throwing his, and Greg came over to talk to us on another boat, and we were killing him on ours, and he didn't have one, so we distracted said fellow on my boat. He cut his rig off of his rod, tied it on his, trolling motored away, and proceeded to catch fish on his rig. Said fellow on my boat's like all excited, jumps up and grabs a Alabama rig rod, and there's nothing on the end of it. And I'm like, I don't know, you must have snagged on something and broke it off or something. And Greg's about 50 yards away, just catching them one after another. So I know he threw it that day.
Yeah.
He knows.
But Nick, getting back to your question, I think this is the greatest thing ever. This is an extra large Daiwa clear lure wrap. Extra large. And you can even hang them up in your shop when you're not fishing with them on a peg.
Looks good to me.
And you can, what I like to do with them, because I'm just getting into my A rig season now. I got called out on a local hat tournament that has now evolved into the Bassmasters Classic. $100 in the hat. So I'm going to have my A rigs. I got to get them all out, get them all dialed up. But I just take them like this. And I put them right in I don't even put them in my tackle. I put them right in my rod locker like this, in the back corner of my rod locker. If I have to make a change, boom. Now, let me tell you something. You got 5 jig heads on here. You got 5 baits on here, okay? Depending on the baits, I mean, let's not play games. You got some money tied up here. So putting it away in this container, all my swim baits stay clean. If you lay out in a boat, they get road grit all over them from towing back and forth. They just get nasty. The hooks rust easier.
Here's one
small price to pay.
Yes. Mike's pro tip number 2. They're an absolute nightmare to rig up. So you want to do this at home. You want to make them up. You want to put the jig heads on them. You want to get your baits put on them properly and take your time and thread them on there real nice. You want to, make sure everything's right on it. And then you can do your 1 or 2 or 3 of them, one with blades, one without, some different colors, and then put them in your wraps and have them ready to go, all ready to go. Because I'm telling you, out on the water doing this, it's the most frustrating thing ever. And your buddy's catching them on it, and you're back there trying to rig this thing up, and it takes 20, 25 minutes to do it. Pain in the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other problem is you got a little bit of money involved getting hung up. So I'm going to try to demonstrate for you the Alabama rig getter backer.
Try to demonstrate. Here we go. Nick, you're going to have to get this, man, because I don't know. Okay, so we're extending the Alabama rig. Get her backer, George?
Get her outer.
Get her outer?
Get her backer.
Get her backer.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
I'm way back yonder with the Alabama rig getter backer.
Get her backer. Hey, ain't that the truth? The other thing about the Alabama rig, when it's all rigged up, it's a small fortune that you're throwing around out there. And there's 5 hooks that can get tangled on almost anything. And I can promise you this thing right here has gotten them out of burlap bags It's gotten them out of big giant balls of catfish line, snagged up in catfish line. What else was that thing you guys got it out of with?
Well, let me tell you.
I
hooked a big fish.
I seen it in action.
I hooked a big fish yo-yo in a spro trap in a deep water area. And this fish got me hooked on the bottom. And I could feel this fish thumping. I could not get this fish free. I tried every technique known to man. I even tried dropping a plug knocker down on him. So I had to phone a friend. My good buddy Jason Shea was guiding, and I called him up. And I said, I need you to come up to such and such a spot with your Alabama rig getter backer, because I didn't have one. And I had that fish on for like 15 minutes till he got there. We got that out. We got him back.
Yeah, I think I seen that thing in action, man.
Problem was it was a catfish. At least I got my bait back.
Yeah, that's all you needed.
Yeah, at least I got my bait back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that right there is good stuff. That's the Fraybill lure retriever. Keep it in your boat. You know, you can use it as a push pole as needed. It's really good for getting back your favorite crankbait. And in this case, it's the absolute best way to get an Alabama rig back.
Yeah.
George, 1 or 2 baits, it's already paid for itself.
What? Yeah, I mean, they're like $40-something dollars, and yeah, I mean, 2 10XDs, 2 Alabama rigs, and you're making money.
Yeah, it saved me on quite a few
Yeah.
mega bass jerk baits already too.
Yeah, and it folds back. It folds down. It folds down to, you know, put it. I keep mine.
5 foot.
You know, I keep mine in my rod locker, and you know, it's out of the way. Yeah. So good tool. Always talk about this on every year when we talk about A-rigging.
So here's a question for the A-rig that I know people are thinking but not asking on there. What knot are you guys using when you got all these hooks hanging from this thing? What are you doing?
Yeah. Well,
I tie a Palomar
That's what I do.
yeah, believe it or not.
I fight it
with
all
a big
the way.
loop. I tie a
with
big loop
with a
Palomar.
big giant loop.
I wanted to know what you guys did, because that's what I do. I fight it all the way. I'm yelling at the hooks a little bit every once in a while when they make the wrong turn.
I use the Jimmy Houston knot every now and again
Do
too.
you?
Yeah.
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 I'm
That's
a
pretty
Palomar
easy
guy.
one to tie, and I you know, with 20-pound line, a Jimmy Houston knot holds up pretty well.
Kurt Rendon chimes in, Pike plus A-rig equals mayhem.
I believe that too. You
Yeah.
get stuck in the sides and all them fish and trying to get them out. Oh god.
I've caught muskie on them.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I've caught just about every kind of fish on. I caught catfish on them. I've caught bass. I've caught largemouth or smallmouth, largemouth, walleye.
Yeah.
Caught some walleye on them already.
Stripers. I mean, it's a game fish.
It is. It's a
trigger.
the thing that we want you guys to take away. It's a massive fish calling. It draws fish like you would not believe. So, you know, as important as a topwater is this time of year, and as important as a jerkbait is this time of year, and as important as just a single swim bait or whatever is this time of year that you'd like to throw, the Alabama rig is very, very important. It's
a player.
It's a big time player. It's a lot of fun to throw. You never know what's going to happen, what you're going to do. So make sure you sharpen your hooks, rig them up, get them ready to go at home, and you know, follow the steps and stuff that we talked about here, and some of the tips that we used. And you guys are going to go out this fall and smash them on the A-rig.
Now.
Mm.
Now.
Yeah, right now.
Now.
Right now. We're in fall, big time. Well,
Okay.
Yeah, like George said, even the summertime, they're throwing it now all the time.
Yeah. Summertime. I mean,
They're throwing it all the time.
the other time of the year that it excels is pre-spawn.
Pre-spawn, yeah.
It's a pre-spawn slayer.
There's guys that are using them around docks and just absolutely slaying fish.
The
But
problem with it is in pre-spawn is a lot of waters they get a lot of runoff, and it's not much of a dirty water bait because the fish aren't in that area then.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's your A-rig.
Yep.
once a year tune up,
Yep.
breakdown, new twists, new perspective.
New tips. You do everything.
know.
Yep.
That's what we got. Now, the other thing we thought we would talk about, and this was based upon what we saw at the Lake Martin Open last week, the last Bass Open of the year, which was a very important tournament. Now, it was originally going to be held on Hartwell.
Yeah.
But the hurricane came in there and didn't really mess the lake up. It messed the area up. So to bring a big wad of fishermen into that community was not good. So they moved it to Lake Martin in Alabama. And Lake Martin is, it was in a very early fall stage and really early. Like it was like that transition time. And, we were looking at what played. And so it led us to want to talk about spinnerbaits tonight because we saw some awesome spinnerbait action in that tournament. And, a lot of times there's a period of time in between summer and fall when the spinnerbait does not play. Unless you have like a lot of wind. But then when you get to that first couple of shorter days, that daylight gets to a certain amount of period of time, and it starts to trip those fish, trigger them. And then maybe you get a cold front and a little storm, but not like the one. And then you get a little wind, and you got yourself all of a sudden now the spinnerbait's a player. I don't know if you guys really followed that tournament close. I kind of locked in on it because stake?
Big time.
Right, the elite.
Yeah.
Bids.
A lot going on there.
I mean, those guys fished for, I don't even know how many months. They fished for 7 months.
Yeah, 9 tournaments.
Over the course of the whole, eastern half of the U.S.
They basically ran their own elite series is what it was.
Basically.
Which is rough on not everybody's a full-time angler. But anyways, this tournament, had that element to it, that drama to it that really intrigued me. And then we had, this typical Southeast United States early fall fishery, and for years and years and years, we knew about the power of the buzzbait in that time frame. You put your trolling motor on high and you throw a buzzbait for, miles.
Yeah.
Miles. And you end up with 4 to 5 really big fish.
Yeah.
Well, the other aspect now that has evolved in this type of time frame and geographic area of the U.S. is the plopper. Right? So the plopper is now
big time
put
player.
your trolling motor down and rock and roll. And it's kind of interesting. The buzzbait seems to play really good at this tournament. The buzzbait seemed to play really good in the morning. And then the plopper seemed to play really good late morning on.
Yeah, the shade line.
Correct.
So, yeah,
you noticed that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, played right into that with the shade lines, and a lot of fish caught that way.
It was also interesting. It kind of took me back to the elite tournament and it may have been Hartwell, which was a post-spawn event / summer event, but it was a herring spawn. And
yeah,
Fletcher Hunter was running a Chapo on shade and doing the same thing. And he even talked about it. He's like, I do it now, and I do it in the very, very early stages of fall. Murray, thank you, Greg. Murray.
Yeah.
Murray was like the early version of this.
Yeah.
I don't know that the buzzbait played on Murray, but the plopper and the chopo
Yeah.
played big time.
Yeah.
And Fletcher Hunter just put his trolling motor down and he rolled.
Was the water high there in that tournament?
I don't think it was.
No.
I think it was. I mean, probably higher than it is now, but it was typical, I believe.
Was it? Okay. I didn't know if it was a
Well,
high
don't you
water.
remember in that tournament, Lee Livesey was like power poled down on a bar in the middle of the freaking lake?
Oh, yeah. That one. Yep.
Those fish were shallow.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Well, the schooling ones would come up
Greg says it was normal.
normal. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, normal. Yeah, right. But it was a shallow, the fish were shallow,
Yeah.
even though they were offshore. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
that plopper and that chopo is, a big time 2-season deal. And this is the time.
Let me tell you something about that.
And we're
George.
not really even talking about that tonight. It's just,
I know.
it's part of this tournament.
But since you brought it up,
I did. And it wasn't an accident. I'm
no.
gonna let you know.
So you heard him say two things. Number one, you heard him say whopper plopper, and number two, you heard him say chopo.
Depends on your sponsor.
Yes, but I am here to tell you
I know what you're going to say, Mike.
that there's two different sounds.
There is.
Out of the chopo being one sound and the whopper plopper being another sound, and I've seen many times over where one outfishes the
I know you have.
other 10-1.
I was in the boat with you.
My contention to you guys is if you don't have both of them in your boat, you're making a huge mistake.
I don't.
Huh?
I don't.
What?
I'm river to sea for life.
No, you're not, because there's chopos in our boat.
I don't use them.
I don't use them.
I kick them out of the way so I can get to my whopper plopper.
I am flat out telling you, Nick.
Larry Dahlberg is my boy. I ain't fishing no Berkeley knockoff.
I just saying.
There definitely is a difference in them, but I gotta side with George. I'm
glad.
and-
I am glad. Let's go fishing. We're gonna fish that tournament November 10th.
We need like a gang sign or something, bro. You know what I'm saying? R2S for life.
I've seen
it's
it.
hard to put that plopper
I've
down.
seen
The
it too many
R2S
freaking
riders, man.
times.
We're gonna start a bike club. The
I see-
R2S
There you
riders.
go.
I've seen it too many times where that El
You're
Chapo
right.
just freaking wipes them out.
What would the name of your motorcycle club be if you were a whopper plopper guy? I mean, we're the R2S riders. What do you like the
The El Chapos? El Chapos.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
You want to be associated with one of the greatest drug kingpins of all time.
No.
Well played.
Yeah. Well, you said gang
Gang sign.
sign.
Yeah. We're R2S for life, bro.
Or R2S for life.
All right. Anyways, getting back on track.
R2S.
Getting back on track. So spun off on this plopper thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, so I got a question about what size you prefer. Well, I'll be honest with you. This time of year, the 110.
Yeah, the big one. Go big.
110. I mean,
Go big or go home.
Remember, once you get that snap, those fish transition to the bigger bait. That no man's land September-ish time frame into early fall, they're on that little bait. And then you get that snap, and they're like, okay, we need to escalate the work order here, and they go to the bigger bait.
We need to eat the big stuff.
And I like that 110. I like the sound. I like the profile.
It's a good size.
Yeah.
We throw the 90 a lot too, earlier.
Great summer bait.
Earlier in the summer, early fall, that we're just kind of transitioning over into bigger ones now.
Ish Monroe throws to 130.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
He throws to 130.
What does
That's it.
Who's the guy that put that on the map? Was the guys from Florida, the brothers. Brothers from Florida that fish together.
Oh, Chris Lane.
Yeah, Chris Lane.
130.
He's a 130
all
guy.
day long.
All day long.
Because they're not interested in quantity, they're interested in quality.
Yeah.
And they know they're going to get their bites. again, the tournament mindset versus the recreation mindset. You know, I got 8 hours to put 5 of the right fish in the boat. I don't really care if I catch 60.
Yeah, they don't need that.
60 fish is an inconvenience to me
Yeah.
because I have to take them off.
Yeah.
Wastes my time. I have to cull them out of the live well, ounces at a time.
Yeah.
I want, if the bite is there, you can fish for grandes. If the bite ain't there, you're going to come in with nothing. But if that bite's there, like this time frame,
yeah.
Now I don't think that 130 would have worked on Lake Martin because it was bigger than most of the fish on the lake.
Right. That's what that I was just going to say that, you know, like I know in the spring, in the post spawn in the spring for me, I threw the 90 and put 20 pounds in the boat two times over. Easy. And that's what they wanted. They didn't want the big bait. They didn't want a big bait.
Yeah, I mean,
there's times. There's a time.
And it depends what they're eating.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times when you see Chris Lane throwing that 130, they're eating. He's on a bluegill spawn.
Yeah.
And they're eating bluegill.
Yeah.
Okay. And Ish is just a shallow power
grinder,
big, you know, just a disruptive force of the water. And that's how he rolls.
Ish just missed it. He just missed the cut.
I know, man.
And I was also rooting for Garrett Paquette, who just missed the
know,
cut.
man.
Yeah.
But
I actually said on last week's show that Garrett Paquette was going to be in.
I thought he would. I was hoping
he was in on day one.
Yeah. He's a hell of a fisherman. But I'll tell you one
Well, he was in the elites before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was in the elites. He's not going to he won't qualify as a rookie.
No.
Because he's a veteran.
Yeah.
He'll be back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he fall under that crazy rule where he had those finishes, you know, in that 3-year rule thing?
Not yet.
He kind of had a year or two where it just didn't work out for him, which is a shame because when you looked at his tournaments up to then, he was really doing well.
Yeah.
It's also a shame because when he does get back, probably next year, then that is going to drag down his
average,
overall average in years to come.
Yeah, that I'm not sure of.
Because they don't have they didn't get their scoring together on that yet.
Here's one good thing.
They still got time to do that.
I took notice from last week is Mike and I, because George, you weren't here for this show. We interviewed Hunter Smith.
Yes.
And guess what? During that interview, we said you will make the elites this year.
Tucker Smith.
Sorry.
Yeah, Tucker.
Hopefully he's not listening. Tucker Smith.
Of course he is.
But we said
he's probably out pre-fishing for a tournament right now.
We said when you make the elites, you're coming back.
Yeah.
So I will be contacting Tucker Smith.
Tucker Smith. So here's how it broke down, people. The top EQ, the 9, and nobody's turning down their invitation. Okay. They're all Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
Fothergill first.
That was a close one.
$45K bonus. Interesting enough, the same exact dollar figure as the entry fees to next year's Elite Series tournament.
Ah, good for him.
So he can just kind of take that check, countersign it, and hand it right back to him.
Well, Uncle Sam's going to want some of that.
Well, I mean, you worry about that later.
Worry about that, and after he gets some winnings in the first part of the year.
And this kid's got a story that if you don't follow him, you need to go back and catch up with him, and then you need to follow him. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm kind of him. This kid had brain surgery, and they thought he was going to die.
Wow.
Right ahead of his last college championship.
Wow. Oh yeah, I remember reading about that.
He had a virus in his brain. Infection in his brain.
Exactly.
Infection in his brain. They dadgum cut his brain open, fixed it. He healed up. He made the championship and he won the damn thing.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's just insane. And now he won. He won a Open this year, and he damn near won this one. He won an Open. He's gone to the Classic.
Yeah.
And he won the AOY for the EQ Anglers.
Does not get much better than that, George.
I mean, come on, man.
Man.
I mean, come on. So
Unbelievable.
Father Gill, we're going to have a Father Gill segment on every show at every Elite next year. And we're going to call it the Father Gill Minute. Second place is a guy that you can see every time you come into SFT. Every day of the year, he's here. You can come in, you can talk to him. That might be a little weird, but you can come in and talk to him. We don't mind.
Yeah.
He's here all the time, 24/7. He's our night security watchman. He's everything. And that is Cody Meyer. And if you ever come in and see the beautiful wrap we have on our wall, you see his chin and half of his face.
Beautiful and an awesome smile.
Because he ended up in the corner and we had to cut his head off. Sorry about that, Cody.
That's a great little nugget there, though.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah.
There he is. He's here every day. You can come in and talk to him.
That's awesome that he qualified.
Second place.
Yeah.
Lives in Idaho. He's like Palaniuk.
Did he fish the elites before?
No, he was a FLW guy, made almost $3 million.
He's a hammer.
Like he's at least he's either almost 3 or over 3 with them.
Wow.
And for some reason,
He's getting serious.
I'm not sure why all these guys are changing team jerseys, but for some reason, he decided to jump over to Bass. And he's finished second. Tucker Smith, to your point, finished third. He's coming in. He's going to be a disruptor.
Well, now him and his teammate from the $1 million win
I know.
are both in the elites.
I mean,
That's pretty wild.
attention, all current elite anglers. You may want to go and get a prescription for your sleeping disorder that they're about to give you. And seventh place, this disruptor just signed up, and his name is Dakota Ebear. And for some reason, somehow, he always catches a giant fish. Like every freaking day that he goes out.
He does.
Problem.
I feel like we've been talking about him for the last 3 years. He's been that consistent.
Yeah. He's always there.
$6,000 AOY. Then we're going to jump down to eighth place, and this is the last guy we're going to talk about, and we call him Chatterbait Jr. Chatterbait Jr. made it, and we will be pulling for him. That's Bo Browning. His father is Stephen Browning, who is Chatterbait Sr., who's made more money on the Bass Pro Tour with a chatterbait than everybody else has caught on a chatterbait combined. And he is going to remain on the Bass Pro Tour, and his son, Bo Browning, is now an elite. So congratulations.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Why did you go 1, 2, 3, 7, 8?
Because I didn't have time for 4, 5, 6, 9, 10.
They're the guys that made it to the elites.
There's 9 of them, the top 9.
And you're only talking about
5. It's called editing. Yeah.
You know, when I look
That's
at that
pretty
list,
bad.
George, and you know, it's your human aspect of it. You look at the guy that got 10th, and you're just like,
who was that?
I don't know, but that sucks.
That'd have been a good one to talk about.
You know, he's got to be sitting there going.
Why didn't you think about that?
But here's the thing.
I don't know. Something like
How, until next season, he'll be thinking about that fish that got away at each tournament that would have put him over the hump for 9th. No doubt.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
I mean, that's kind of like Bitter losing that fish on the James River that he landed, that bounced out of his grip, fell over the gunnel, and he lost the Classic by 3 ounces to Rick Clunn. Or was it Hank Parker?
What river?
That was Hank Parker.
James.
That was Hank Parker, wasn't it?
Well,
Hank
won one there, and so did
Rick won.
Rick won.
I
He
think
might have
Rick
run
won 2 there.
Yeah.
But he lost it with a fish that he landed. And I don't know if that haunted him more than 10th place is here, because these guys gave it their soul.
Yeah, they did. They did. They were all in. all in.
Yeah.
Nick. We talked about that. We
can't
talked about
tell
the
you.
mentality that these guys got to have to be all in on a dream like that.
Well, I mean, you got Greg on the show. You know, he's listening right now. He
Yeah.
knows
Yeah.
this, and they changed it for next year for the opens. It's going
Yeah.
back to more of a normal type deal.
Yeah.
But this 9 tournament deal,
Yeah. Unreal.
I mean, you had to have the sponsors and everything else, just like you were fishing the elites.
yeah.
Well, next year they're going to fish a segment. They're going to divide the elites up. Well, they had different sections this year. I don't know what they call them, sections, tours, groups, whatever.
Regions.
They had different ones this year, but if you wanted to fish the EQs, you had to fish them all. Next year, you only have to fish one 4-tournament division.
There you go.
Yeah. There you
See,
go.
I was thinking perpendicular. And finish in the top whatever, and then you go to the championship division, which, by the way, elite anglers can also, anybody can jackpot.
Mhm.
But it's only those guys that qualified for it that are eligible to make the tour, the
Yeah.
elite series.
Yeah, because you have elite anglers who, if they think they might not make the cut for the following year, they might want to fish those tournaments so they can get back in, even if, I mean,
Yeah.
there's double qualifiers. So that's an interesting deal.
All right.
Let's face it, the elites are the elites.
And Bassmasters, if somebody from Bassmasters is listening right here, right now, next year, when it gets, to that point of the time,
Yeah.
let us know what's going on
Yeah.
in the elite.
Put the story.
So we
Put the
know,
story out there.
Yeah,
Who's fighting for what?
exactly. We
Yeah.
need to know.
They need to know that a lot better.
Take advantage of that.
Yeah.
That's such a good story,
Yeah,
man.
that was not good. It was, and with as tremendous as their coverage is, they took that human drama away from us.
It really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. George, we talked about the Alabama rig and, how devastating it is for the bass population in the fall. What other?
Well, we wanted to talk about the spinnerbait.
Yeah.
We were talking about the spinnerbait when we were watching the Lake Martin tournament because a lot of guys were throwing spinnerbait.
Yeah.
Because spinnerbait in the fall, I mean, I'll make an argument for you that there's not a better season of the year to throw a spinnerbait. I'm just here to tell you, when you get into the true fall,
Yeah.
okay, when you get into the true fall, I don't know that I'll make an argument for the spinnerbait as being the best option. You have heavily feeding fish,
Yeah.
chasing bait,
Yeah.
and you have a spinnerbait that allows you to cover tremendous amounts of water
Bingo.
and
Bingo.
pluck these aggressive fish off.
Bingo on the covering the amount of water with a bait that will catch giant feeding fish
Yeah,
and emulate
Big fish.
emulate the bait fish perfectly.
big fish. Yes,
And-
the blades.
You can do that with a spinner bait because there's so many options out
Well,
there.
Yeah, and we do a spinnerbait show every year, and we go through like everything that we know about spinnerbaits.
Yeah.
That ain't the deal right now. It's not that complicated.
Yep.
There's a couple spinnerbait combinations that you really should have. Very simple. Very simple. You should have a double willow in a bait fish imitating color. Okay. White, shad,
Spot remover,
spot remover,
golden niner. Golden niner.
golden shiner.
Got the niner on. Come on.
And what you're doing there is you are, double willow imitating a group of bait, flicking, jumping, chipping around. Now, there are certain circumstances that we have, our group here has experienced undeniably multiple times this time of the year. And that is certain circumstances where the Colorado willow significantly outfished the double willow. And you would think, well, water quality, you needed a little more vibration. No, not really. But I can tell you this, if you tie this spinnerbait on, which is a premium double willow spinnerbait on a light wire, and you cast it out and you reel it in, you'll feel some vibration. You'll feel those blades in your rod tip and your hand. If you make 5 casts with that, cut it off and tie this on, you'll feel a 10x factor of vibration from that little Colorado braid. So there are times, there's not a chart for this. There's not a formula for this. I'm going to go back to the A-rig. I have scientific data on this. If they're short striking and missing this, put on that. If the double willow's is doing sort of okay, but you're not satisfied with the amount of fish you're missing, might not be a trailer blade. It might be a blade. And very, very fall related. Color-wise, listen, shad, chartreuse and white, like we said, golden shiner, spot remover, 30 more shad-related skirts. We do have, this time of the year, guys, we have outliers.
Mm-hmm.
We have, in the smallmouth world,
UFO.
Mike likes to call it the UFO.
Yep.
If you're a smallmouth fisherman, that's in the true fall. Remember, we're talking about the true fall here. I don't care how clear the water is.
Yep, you're right.
I don't care how sunny it is. If there's some wind blowing, you better be throwing double shark.
Yep.
I'm just letting you know that, fellas.
Yep.
Now, another outlier. Traditionally a spring color designed for smallmouth fishing. However, it may be even better in the fall. The Susquehanna Fishing Tackle Green Pumpkin. Colorado, Indiana, double willow's really where you're going to probably spend most of your time this time of the year. It's a smallmouth.
And it's an awesome, that's where I think where your stain water comes in a little bit.
Little bit of stain, but do not rule it out.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that's a really good stain water bait.
My last opportunity with this came in crystal clear water.
Mm-hmm.
And they just were eating green pumpkin. I think if the boat was green pumpkin, they would have been eating it.
Yeah.
And trick. That trailer.
Look at you. Forgot the other one, that really good one.
This is the really good one. That combination. It's an outlier. Okay? Now, let's talk about trailers, guys. I would like to hear your guys' thoughts and experience on trailers before I give you mine. In the fall. I'm not talking about year-round. What do you got for me, Nick?
On just a spinnerbait?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you. I don't have as much experience with you guys as on the trailers. I do have experience with the spinnerbaits, and I love throwing spinnerbaits this time of year.
Are you putting trailers on them?
I'm not. No, I never did. So I'm going to learn something here. But I've caught a lot of fish with spinnerbaits this time of year. Yep.
Mike, what's your feeling on spinnerbait trailers in the fall? True fall.
Yeah,
the true fall.
The true fall. My feeling is it's probably the only time of the year that I ever use trailers, and it goes along with big bait, big profile, big fish, matching the hatch, getting a lot more density and a lot more profile in the water. More length out of it. I like a longer trailer, a lot more length out of it.
Are you doing swim bait? Are you doing split tail? Are you doing grub?
Well, I probably
what's your go-to?
Probably most of the time I'm doing a split tail type of combination. But I do use a boot foot every now and then, and my boot foot gives me a lot more bulk. And I'll throw a chartreuse boot foot on there. I'll throw.
I know you like this one.
Shad color, yeah, exactly, right there. Love the. That gives me. See how the body of that, Nick, is thick. When that skirt goes out there, when you're reeling your bait along, it kind of wants to pulse and come in like this. This makes it go like this. Keeps it big and flat and fluffy like that. This is a time of year where guys will put double skirts on for more bulk. I don't do that. I use a trailer.
I don't either. The only time I'll double skirt a spinnerbait is in extremely muddy water.
Yeah, guys will double skirt them.
I'm talking like water that you could plow and plant corn in. I like to double skirt them. But to be honest with you, I don't put a lot of trailers on in the fall. Now, if I get a little dingy water, if we have some storms and we get some runoff, some of the waters that I like to fish in the fall, I like to fish tidal water. I like to fish Chesapeake Bay. You get, you got a lot of farmland feeding in there. You get the littlest bit of a storm and you got all kinds of nasty runoff coming in. And that milky chartreuse contrast. So my trailer deal is more about color than it is about body. Although I have been with Mike on more than one occasion when this was like money to the 10th degree.
I tell you another thing, Nick. Smallmouth aren't as critical about it, but largemouth, the trailer, yeah, Big Daddy.
So you guys are throwing a trailer more for the bulk than the action.
Yeah, well, a little bit of action, but length,
color
bulk,
contrast.
Color contrast. But the other thing is the right time of year to start putting that on. Like right now, it's not the right time of year. George hears me say this all the time. I'm looking for half to 3/4 of the leaves off the trees.
Okay.
You get half to 3/4 of the leaves off the trees. That means your water temperatures are down there pretty good. They're in those low 50s, high 40s. And you want that. They're eating. The only thing that's left is all that big. They want that big bait. They're just looking for that last big bait. And you could slow roll these things with the big blades on them and the big body swim baits on these lakes and stuff around here, and you will absolutely slug a giant bag. Guaranteed. That's the time of year you want to do it. All these lakes that you guys have been beaten up and you're like, man, this place sucks. I can't catch anything on it. Those fish will come up to that nice break line. They'll be right on those steep dropping banks. You can slow roll down through there and you can absolutely slay them.
That is an awesome bite.
Oh, it's freaking great.
It's a fun bite.
It's a fun bite. Yeah. Especially if it's a nice wind-blown bank. I like to look for that, but I like that steep dropping bank close to a flat where those fish are like, that's too cold for that crap. I'm pulling out to this. I can slide down deep at night. I can slide up when the sun beats on a little bit. I can slide up and feed real quick. But when I feed, I only want to eat something big. Then I'm rolling back down into my comfort zone down deep.
Right.
Okay, guys. We chopped up these spinnerbaits a little bit. We talked about, fall is not that diverse, but we showed some tricky, sneaky stuff as well. Let's talk for a quick minute about tackle. So the spinnerbait rod, it's very, very important that you have something that's got a little bit of give to it. You don't want a medium. You don't want a medium. You want something that's a true medium heavy, fast taper. And I went and walked around the shop. Me and Nick are going to show you this taper here, best we can. So we're coming back a good 5 guides. So we have a nice medium heavy power backbone. This is a St. Croix black bass. And depending on your fishery, you could literally throw the heavy version of this. It's just a heavy version, same taper, depending on your fishery. But for day in, day out work, this 7-foot medium heavy fast black bass. And then I picked out my personal all-time favorite because a couple reasons. I'm the guy behind the microphone and I get to pick out what I like. The G Loomis MBR 843C.
Gee,
Arguably the greatest.
how would I ever not figured that one out?
Arguably the greatest spinnerbait rod I've ever thrown. Super light, super strong, medium heavy fast. And I'm sorry I threw my personal pick in there. And then the third one I picked up, because I was pressed for time, I know this rod well. This is a 7-foot. They also make it in a 7.2 medium heavy Shimano Corrado.
That's a great rod, man.
I like the price. It's $179.
I like the action of that thing.
It's $179. It's light as a feather.
Very reminiscent of the 843
It's a fast taper. It's almost like an 843 plus.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Great rod. And now the beauty of a spinnerbait rod is it's a very versatile rod. We've talked about this, and we're going to talk about it forever because we're all about the versatility.
Yeah.
These rods also double up quite nicely in certain circumstances. For example, somewhat open water chatterbait fishing.
Yeah, sure.
Throwing a mid-sized swim bait.
I love a jig with a 3.8 on it.
Yeah, I mean a 4.8 or a 3.8 on
love a 3.8
quarter
on
or 3/8 ounce jig head. Perfect. Yo-yo in a trap. Chucking a big spook. I mean, we're all about versatility. We're all about getting
a lot bang for the buck.
Now, as anglers, we all have our outfits, right? Like I throw spinnerbait a lot. I have rods that never have seen another lure on them. So, I like that. But if I had to, I'd use it for something else. So you might have it. It might be your spinnerbait rod, but it might also be your Swiss Army knife.
Well, I agree with you 100%, George, because that St. Croix, I mean, I know that rod. That's a Swiss Army knife right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could literally buy that rod and use it for so many different things. And it's like, now I can't speak for your other ones there, but you can. And that G Loomis, I know you're all over that thing.
So, we talk about rods a lot in here. Pick your favorite brand. Are you a Daiwa guy? Are you a iRod guy? Are you a Lose guy? St. Croix, G Loomis, Shimano, wherever you fall. Okay, they're all great rods.
They are.
Okay,
but the action is very important.
And they all make this rod.
Yeah,
they all make this rod. If you like the Daiwas, there's 5 different models of Daiwa, 6 models of Daiwa ranging from $78 to $599 that come in this action.
Yeah.
And so on and so on and so forth. So, don't
7 foot.
Don't be like intimidated by what your buddy's throwing, but don't get it wrong. Now you want a fast taper.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Actually, St. Croix even goes as far as they make some moderate fast tapered rods that are nice spinnerbait rods. But without getting too scientific here.
Well, George, I do want to ask you something here because there's a lot of people listening right now and they're like, man, George, I'm with you 100%, but what is a fast taper?
Well, and we talk about this a lot here. So, for example, if you have a fishing rod, and we're going to look at this this Shimano here, for example, because it's closest one to me, and it is a 7-foot medium heavy fast. Okay. So what we're talking about is
hold it down on the floor and bend it in front of you so they can see it a little better.
Nobody can see behind the counter.
Yeah, they don't need to see the back end of it.
So what we're talking about here is we're talking about where the rod flexes. So the closer that this flex is to the front of the rod, in other words, that transition point. Okay, right here. Right here is where we transition from the front to the midsection. backbone. So if you want to think of it in the terms of numbers, 80-20 extra fast, 70-30 fast, right? 60-40 moderate fast. And that's what we mean by that. Don't confuse action with power. A medium heavy rod does not mean it's fast or extra fast. It means it has a power rating of medium heavy, which is typically, in that quarter to 3/4 range. And it can be, you can have an extra fast medium heavy, and you can have a fast medium heavy. You can have a moderate fast medium heavy. You can have a moderate medium heavy. Okay? So the flex pattern is the action: fast, extra fast, moderate fast, moderate. Okay? And that's what we mean by that. And why is fast better than, say, extra fast? Well, it gives a little more. So when you're winding your spinnerbait in, or when you're winding your chatterbait in, or when you're winding your Alabama rig in, and something loads up on it, and you set the hook, the rod gives a little bit. You get that hook set, and then you have a cushioning factor there, a shock absorbing factor there. If the rod's super, super stiff, and you have heavy line and a high drag, and you're horsing them, something's going to give. It's called your hook. Okay? We talk about hooks flexing open. That's not going to happen on a spinnerbait, but it will on a light wire jig head.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about that kind of stuff. So it's a shock absorbing factor we like fast for. It's a hook up ratio factor we like fast for. It's the way to go. Fast on the moving style baits and so versatile. That's what we mean by that, Nick, to be as short as I can.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Real wise guys on the spinnerbait. Okay. Here's where gear ratio has a little bit of play. You don't want to get real slow here, because you're literally going to notice during the day that you're winding your rod insanely fast to get a burning style retrieve. You're just like just raging on that thing. So at least get yourself something in the 7 range. We refer to gear ratios a lot like 6 range, 7 range, 8 range. That means if your reel is a 7.2 or a 7.3, that's the same.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that the manufacturers do that is because there's somebody at home in their basement, measuring the ratio, and they're like, son of a bitch.
Here's another one.
This son of a bitch thinks he's getting away with this. He's 7.3 all day long, 38 3/4 inches per crank. Not on my watch. Hell no. Ma, meatloaf. I'm telling you, dude. That's how it's going down. So, 6, 7, 8, right? You want to be in the 7. 8's okay, but you want to be in the 7.
I tell you, 8's been becoming so much more popular though for that, because it's easy to control spinnerbait with speed, because you feel it and you see it, so you can control the speed a lot better. But when you get into that slow rolling thing, then 7 for sure. You want to.
It's funny you say about the gear ratio, because back when they were in the 4s and then the 5s, now you're at the 8s.
Well,
it's like, holy smokes.
My deal was BB1Ns, and we had the BB1N and we had the BB1NH. That stands for high speed. The BB1N was 4.3.
Yeah.
The BB1NH was 4.7.
It's crazy.
And I literally have, like, in my man cave, in my trophy case, I have like multiple worn out BB1Ns. Back here in my office, I have a whole box of them. I'm like, this used to be the deal, man.
Yeah.
Like this was what we fished. And if we had Tackle Shop Live back then, we'd be like, you do not want to slow roll a spinnerbait on a BB1NH. That is too freaking fast.
The 8-1 story is, one that, everybody's like, they're like, oh my God, 8-1. I don't need it for the 8-1, but trust me, you got to have a couple 8-1s. I fished with a guy who just turned me on to 8-1s, and it was pretty special, what they do and how you can fish them, and you can feel them a lot better. You can slow down, but, so don't be afraid of 8-1s for burning a spinnerbait. It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah.
That ain't going to hurt you.
Yeah.
You'll notice when you over crank a spinnerbait, it'll start to keel over.
Yeah.
Now, if you grab your spinnerbait by the hook and sight down it, you want that top blade wire to be in line with that hook. And then also look at your skirt and make sure your skirt is distributed evenly if it's not tied to where you can distribute it evenly. That'll prevent some of that roll if you're trying to burn. This is a great time to burn a spinnerbait. Yeah,
you got to be careful with when you're burning a spinnerbait about the blade size, because one of the great blade sizes I like this time of year is a 4 and a 4.5. You can flutter it a little better. You can float it along. You can fish it a little shallower, a little slower, a little shallower. But if you want to burn a spinnerbait, we absolutely love the War Eagle Screaming Eagle. It's are they double threes?
No, they're a 3.5 and a 4.
3.5 and a 4.
So less lift.
Yeah, a lot less lift.
Smaller frame, hidden weight.
Yeah.
Hidden weight. Here's a 4 and a 4.5.
Gives you a lot of lift, and you can flutter that thing real nice, slow it down a little bit, and
that's a 4 and a 4.5. Here's a 3.5 and a 4. For many years, Nichols made us, and they still do. They custom make us 44 mags.
Yeah.
They used to make the 44 mag. Now it's a custom, and that's a 1/2 ounce with a pair of 4s. And
burn it. It's for burning.
You don't get a lot of lift.
It's burning. It's a burning blade.
And those chartreuse blades are awesome burning blades too. So,
yep.
Vary your retrieve. Slow's not the word. Play the wind.
Mm-hmm.
Cover water.
Cover a lot of water.
Medium, heavy,
this
fast.
Time of year, don't be afraid. I just talking to one of our guides on Sunday, and he was fishing an area where they were catching some fish, and he pulled in there, and the fish weren't there, and he just put a chatterbait on and went to work. He started, you could have easily put a spinnerbait on, and he went to work. He just started covering water. It was almost a quarter a mile away in that same area, but a quarter mile away on that same grass line is where all those fish moved. And he noticed it. He started noticing some action, some things going on and some flittering going on, and that's where he started catching them. But that was 2 days difference in time. So these fish are moving. A spinnerbait is a great bait to cover a lot of water and find those fish again from one day to the next.
And that's what's so fun about doing the power fishing, because your head's up.
Yeah.
You're using all your senses.
Yeah.
You're seeing the flickering. You're seeing the bird activity. You're seeing the little things.
That's exactly what dials you
now
right in.
You're catching fish.
It dials you in, gets you to the right area. And, like he said, he was fishing, kind of going along, and he started seeing stuff, and he put the trolling motor on higher speed until he got down there. And then that's when he started to get the bites and put together a
I really
phenomenal
can't
day.
tell you how many times we've talked about our fishing experiences, and you're in this dead water.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing living anywhere.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you see life.
Yeah.
And you start catching fish.
Yeah.
You got to fish with your eyes and your ears.
Let me tell you something about fishing. It's not complicated. We complicate the shit out of it. And it's not complicated. If you just pay attention to nature and see what nature's doing and apply that to your knowledge and senses, you're gonna catch fish. You're gonna at least be around them to try to catch them. Don't just, and George and I talk about this all the time. don't be that spot guy, man. Just, that spot guy, oh, I got this spot. I got to go fish this spot. That spot guy he doesn't end up having those days, and, so keep your head up, use your senses, use your gut and just make it happen. That's what it's all about. And, that's what we preach here at the shop. So, got your nice spinnerbait thing going on there. Got some nice, great, exciting news for next week. We're gonna talk about, and we're gonna have a great show again next week. So stay tuned. Everybody that tuned in tonight, thank you so much. We appreciate you very, very much. You don't know how much you guys mean to us. And as always, we'll see you on another edition of Tackle Shop Live.
I met you on a sunny day. Right there, you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day, you called me up. You told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real.